group of 5 Republican senators are calling out the country's television rating system to begin warning parents about TV content that features LGBTQ characters or even narratives. This is all following growing outrage after Florida Governor Ron DeSantis signed the so-called Don't Say Gay bill. GOP lawmakers are now accusing entertainment companies of pushing, quote, radical and sexual material upon children. NBC News reporter Matt Levides has been closely following the story and joins us now to help us understand it. Matt, look, what exactly is the material that these senators are concerned about?
Well, this letter that the senators sent to this TV parental guidelines board does not cite a specific character or a specific television show. What is remarkable about this letter is that U.S. officials at the highest of levels are suggesting that LGBTQ characters are sexual, predatory, radical by nature.
I feel like we've seen this story before. Republicans are digging in their heels even further on these culture wars. And now they're trying to push TV ratings to now let children and parents know when this filthy things are being put on their television sets as part of the rating systems. Here's more about that letter that's been sent by these clowns. So in a 2-page letter that was dated on May 4th, Republican Senators Mike Braun of Indiana, Roger Marshall of Kansas, Mike Lee of Utah, Kevin Cramer of North Dakota, and Steve Daines of Montana, they made the request to the chairman of the TV Parental Guidelines Monitoring Board. And they said, in recent years, concerning topics of a sexual nature have become aggressively politicized and promoted in children's programming, including irreversible and harmful experimental treatments for mental disorders like gender dysphoria, is what the letter reads. To this end, we strongly urge you to update the TV Parental Guidelines and ensure that they are up to date on best practices that help inform parents on this disturbing content. The Telecommunications Act 1996 enabled greater parental choice in television programming, is what the letter continues on reading. The law was fully implemented, allowing parents to easily block violent, sexual, or other programming that they believe may irrevocably interfere with their child's emotional and psychological development. Long story short there, in that letter, we're afraid of anything that's not what we normally would see on television. Sexual in nature, of course, we're gonna assume that anything that is not cisgendered, white, and heterosexual relationships on television is automatically sexual in nature, deteriorating children's minds and sending them to a world of hate, I guess. I'm not really sure what it is that these children then become monsters to these folks because they're afraid of them. Or is it that they're pushing this back for more of this culture war that they're trying to have? So there was this memo that was sent out by Republicans to talk about why they're going to this route. And I feel like I always have to say this because this is their approach. When we're talking about policy and agenda and principles, there's nothing there. When it comes to culture wars, this is the reasons why they're there. Republican study committee's unsubtle memo was quite literally titled, "Lean into the Culture War," is what this document that was sent to Republicans read. We are in a culture war and we are winning. Instead of real issues, Republican leaders on Capitol Hill focused their attention on Dr. Seuss and Mr. Potato Head dolls. And as a disclaimer, Disney added to some of their episodes of The Muppet Show. So they already jumped on this a little bit with that. It was an early reminder of the Republican Party's post-policy intentions. Democrats could focus on governing pesky details surrounding the pandemic and the economy, but Republican officials on Capitol Hill saw value in the politics of cultural grievances. This is nothing new, fair. And actually, when I did your show back in January, before we started this one, we did a story and we talked about how there was a Republican, not a policymaker, but he was a strategist. And he was advising anybody that's running for office in this midterm, don't talk about policy, don't tell them what you want to do as far as helping their lives. What we want to talk about is all the culture war things. It's fertile ground right now, and we have to plant those seeds and let them grow.
Absolutely, and I think one of the things that these Republicans do need to be wary of at some point is eventually they're gonna get a little too greedy here. And I think we've already started to see that a little bit here in the state of Florida with Ron DeSantis and his relentless attacks on Disney. He is getting too greedy with it, and that's the kind of thing that is absolutely, to a degree, at least with the corporation, the people that live in that area as well, it is starting to backfire. It's small at first, but if they continue to push this, it could easily go that way. Same thing with this whole rating system thing. They're saying that if my child sees a gay person on TV, it could confuse them. I mean, it could make them think something different. I mean, I don't even understand that logic. If your kid is going to become gay from looking at a gay person? Are you going to lock them in their room for the rest of their lives to prevent that? I mean, these are things you can see out there if you step outside your front door. You know, it's part of life. It's representation, really, is what it is in the media by starting to open up and show same-sex couples. I mean, hell, they barely even show interracial couples on TV. And so people have to understand, you cannot just plug your kids' ears, close their eyes, and hope that they don't see things that are slightly different. Let them see what the world actually looks like outside of your, 10,000 population lily white town in the middle of nowhere, America. Let them understand that these things are okay, that these are accepted. Because if they continue to try to push these culture war issues, eventually they're gonna go too far, where they are gonna start getting some Republicans who say, okay, well, hold up now. This is too much for me. Again, they're probably not at that point yet, but there will come a time when they run out of targets. And then eventually these same people that are cheering it on right now, well, guess what? You're eventually going to be targeted with some kind of Republican oppression after they run out of everybody else to oppress. It's just what happens. It's the natural order.
Yeah, so it seems like they're fighting against a development and openness to information. Again, it's like when you see these dictatorial countries that want to limit people's internet access, because then if they have a certain level of internet access, they see more things. Their eyes are opened up. Their experiences in the world are different, and they might change their view because they're like, wait, that gay person is not a monster. I met a gay person, they didn't come up and grab my genitals and want to have sex with me. It's really weird because they paint this picture of monstrous activities of certain folks that you're supposed to be afraid of. And if their children start seeing that that's not true, they stop believing it. And that's what they can't have. Access to information is the enemy of repressive people like this. So they're trying to limit that access to information. They're trying to limit that access just to general regular life. So the only thing that exists are these cisgender couples, and hopefully, which they would hope for was just same race couples as well. As you point out, it's still startling to even see biracial couples on commercials even. It's just that's actually what I was thinking, because you are starting to see more on commercials, but that is a very recent phenomenon as well. And another thing too, to your point there, is once they start questioning like, oh, wait a minute, gay people aren't evil. My parents had raised me to believe this. These politicians had told me this, but they're wrong. Then it opens their mind up to, wait a minute, what else are they wrong about? What else have they told me that is not true? And that's the slope they don't want those people on. Then they've lost them forever. Before we take our next break, really fast though, because I do remember, Farron, when I was 11, 12 years old, I was like, wow, this commercial always comes on. I'm just trying to watch Three Stooges late at night. And ads like this came up, at least this is a graphic of one to point out. Did these things force us into our heterosexuality? I'm just curious, because I saw Girls Gone Wild everywhere on television when I was like 10, 11, 12 years old. I don't know, you know what else they don't like to point out? What about little girls end up being gay? Maybe they're seeing all this and you're flashing girls everywhere. You've turned them into gay women. This is crazy, right? Isn't that disgusting? It's weird how they focus on gay men though. It's weird. It's weird how that's not really the problem. They just think if we show two men, that's the problem.